The recording has started. You are good to go.
Alright, so welcome everybody to the stream. My name is Sonnie. I've been a member of this server for like a couple of years now, and recently I've taken up the challenge to lab and figure out Darklords after the new burst protocol support. So this has been a deck I've liked since I saw it, basically. Like, I remember starting Yu-Gi-Oh! And seeing the first Darklord and just being like, wow, this card is just so cool, right? But then slowly figuring out that the deck isn't good, put it on the back burner, and then I've finally decided that it's time now probably more than ever to just get into it and learn it. So I'm excited to share what I've found out, and let's get started, basically. So, Dark Lords are a series of dark fairy monsters who draw reference from a number of prominent figures in different religions. Before they became a full-fledged archetype, there was a couple of Dark Lord monsters that were released around 2008 that didn't really have the naming convention from Japan that you might be aware of. It's Dark Lord Marie and the Dark Lord Nurse Reficule. Hopefully I'm not butchering this name. The nurse that's famous for the Nurse Burn decks was not originally a part of the Dark Lord archetype. However, once the archetype became what it is today, they've sort of errated the two cards to bring them together. So the first real set that debuted the Dark Lords cards was Destiny Soldiers in November 17th, 2016. This set had our very own Aster Phoenix as the promo art, and it released a bunch of Dark Lord cards that were introduced, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them here. So I'm just going to switch over to YGO Omega so that I can do this properly. Let me see. If I can just share the YGO Omega part. Which for some reason it's not letting me do that. Okay. Ooh. Hold on. Okay. So the first card ever that I've talked about is Darklord Marie. It was just basically a standalone card. The wording for Darklord in Japanese means Fallen Angel. So the first two cards that were released were basically two Fallen Angel cards that were later errated. However, we have a couple of other things that are pretty interesting in my opinion. If you know the Warrior of Azera, who is connected to many of the lore in Yu-Gi-Oh!, including some sort of ritual support, was also turned into a Dark Lord, which released around 2008, if I'm not wrong. However, at this point, the archetype didn't really have any sort of foundation. It was just a couple of cards that didn't really even work together properly. So the original debut of this deck was in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga, actually, and it was played by a couple of the characters that sort of had the Dark Lord cards. The most prominent one is the sister of Hibiki. Let me just catch her name real quick because I'm forgetting. Wow. Hold on. Yeah, it was Midori Hibiki, basically, that was playing the full archetype. So in the manga, there was a couple of cards shown there that I'm gonna just gloss over really quickly. They were released in 2010, and they were only given out to the winner, to the second and third place of YCSs. So they were really difficult to obtain cards. It was Dark Lord Asmodeus, Dark Lord Ide Array, and Dark Lord Superbia. Basically, these three cards were promotional cards, or cards that were featured in the manga. the way that the deck was positioned in the manga was basically the main mechanic of it was that you would send Darklord cards to the graveyard and then revive them to sort of give you powerful effects to play the game. It was like it was a very simplistic gameplay. There wasn't really much to it. And then around 2010, we got another promotional card. It was Desire. Um, just grab it here. It was Darklord Desire. This was kind of a like cheeky little thing from Konami where they sort of wanted to hint that in order to obtain these Darklord cards, you needed to have a very strong desire to compete as, you know, only the players that were second and third in the YCSs would actually be able to obtain them. So for a while, the deck sort of remained really nothing more than like a collection card or sort of stuck in some sort of very expensive collector type deck. And then finally in 2016 we get the new cards that sort of bring the deck together. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them. The way that they shaped the identity of the deck was they wanted to have a copy mechanic where the main monsters would be able to copy the powerful spells and traps from the deck in order to facilitate very powerful once per turn effects where you would basically bypass the costs. So for example, where you would send the Darklord monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard. When you would copy this effect, this would be completely bypassed, of course, because of the game's mechanics. Now, this is a very interesting gimmick at the time, but the main issue was the engine itself wasn't really self-functioning. So all that this did was basically just made the deck a very powerful engine in other popular, specifically fairy decks, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, just 1 second here. I want to get into the lore really quickly, so I've sort of shaped the cards here based on how the original events in the lore were transpiring, because I found it quite interesting, since they found a way to sort of connect the Darklord cards with something very early in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which was the Solemn cards. So it all basically started with Knight in shining armor fighting and defying a god in the sanctuary because he didn't agree with his principles. Of course, the god in question here was the god that you can see in the Solemn cards. Unfortunately, this attempt was not really successful, so the warrior turned into a fallen angel and became Darklord Morningstar, which is going to be basically the main character of the Darklord lore, which you'll sort of see later. Now this is where the lore sort of shifts over, and we turn into the next, probably most important character for Darklords, which is the Maiden from the Forbidden cards. And the Maiden was a member of the Sanctuary that had a very was very interested in everything that wasn't really, how would I explain this? Everything that was forbidden in the Sanctuary, she was interested in it, and she would often use or experiment with these things, steal them for herself. And of course, the god took notice of that and scolded her for it. However, the greed from this character was just too much, and she would continue to do these things, and then finally, after the final warning, she was struck down, and she also became the Condemned Maiden, later turning into the Condemned Witch. Now this is where the Darklord lore sort of expands. While the witch was plotting her revenge, the Darklord Morningstar recruited her along with the rest of the fallen angels he was able to find during his time while he was also plotting his revenge. So people like Darklord Eggshell, Tezcatlipoca were they're basically recruited for the new Darklord Uprising, where they wanted to basically kill the god of the Sanctuary. So the plan was very simple. The Maiden, who was the most recent banished angel from the Sanctuary, would come to the sanctuary to seek forgiveness from the god, and of course the god, being as almighty as he would sort of accept that and try to bring her to the good side. And here in the sanctified Darklord we can see a depiction of where the god tries to purify her, but this is all a part of the plan where the witch finally strikes at the god and she actually does kill him. So um, this is where the lore sort of splits, and we'll sort of see that with the modern cards as well, where the two maidens that snitched on her, which you'll see them sort of here, were turned into Dark Lords, as well as the new support. You have the Forbidden Lance here, which was turned into a monster, and also I think this is the which one is this? It's the Scripture. Was also turned into a Dark Lord monster. So I think the lore is pretty cool. This is like one of the more fascinating things. I especially liked how they managed to sort of tie all this like old stuff together with the new stuff. So now that we have the story out of the way, I want to talk about the deck itself and how it was like used originally. So I'm just gonna pan over to the to the presentation really quickly. So obviously this is Hibiki Midori. Now the first early iterations of Dark Lords were very simple. It was just a couple of cards that were used together to form a deck with basically a much more powerful engine that was able to sort of carry itself. The most popular version was obviously Dark Lord Despia. The reason for that is that Despia had a lot of high-level cards, high-level fairy cards, and they were easily able to make the first Dark Lord, which was one of the most powerful cards in the archetype, as well as later Dark Lord Pirelli becoming a very popular version because Pirelli would end on a tower, and you'd also have powerful discards with the Dark Lord engine. So I'm gonna pan back and just talk about, show you the pure version of this deck. So, one sec. So, now that we sort of know how the earlier Dark Lord cards looked, what I want to talk about is what the deck was mainly lacking from what you saw from the earlier versions. So the main 3 points that the deck really lacked in order to become a cohesive deck was it needed a fusion spell. So when you take a look at all the Dark Lord cards, they don't really have a fusion spell, but they have a powerful fusion monster. The first Dark Lord, which in my opinion is the second most powerful card pre-support, is a monster that basically can summon a fairy from the graveyard, but also can blow up the entire opponent's field, so it can be used as a nuke. Is a very good going second, but also because it cannot be targeted and it revives a fairy from the graveyard, it was pretty much used to summon Christia on your turn, so you would stop the opponent from playing the game. So the most popular sort of versions of Dark Lords earlier were basically you would use Asmodeus to dump a fairy from the deck to the graveyard, and then with the big fusion, you would basically just revive Christia. And if you don't know Christia, it's basically just neither player can special summon monsters. Enjoy the game. So the deck going first didn't really have any interactions other than just completely locking your opponent out of playing. So with the new support, what we sort of wanted was a way for the deck to sort of play in a way that wasn't just completely locking yourself and your opponent out of playing the game. So we needed an end board piece or some sort of points of interaction going first. And another thing you may notice is that a lot of these monsters are actually very high level monsters, which sort of makes them really difficult to play. in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, especially when there is no way for you to sort of special summon them easily from your hand or your graveyard. So we sort of need some lower level monsters to compensate a good normal summon, and etc. So here's where we sort of move into Burst Protocol, which is the set that released in February. So I'm gonna show you the pure version first. We're gonna talk about the cards, what they do, the sort of the older core, and how it mixes with the newer cards. So the first card, and probably the most important card of this new set, is a Darklord Judy. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one Darklord monster from your deck in defense position, and for the rest of the turn, you're locked into fairy monsters. This is the effect that you care about. This is broken like anything that can just summon a monster from the deck is just very much insane. Finally, the deck gets a good normal summon. Previously, before this moment, there was only one normal summon, and it was the Indulged Darklord, which you can special summon one Darklord to your opponent's side of the field. But that's sort of it. So it wasn't really a good normal summon. You would add one to your hand, which of course you would sort of work on your 2-card combos, but for what the deck was trying to do at the time, it just wasn't doing enough. So we finally got a replacement for that, a Darklord Judy, basically an emergency tally from the deck. The next card I want to talk about is Darklord Gulgulget, previously known as Gulgalta. This is a card when it's special summoned, you can special summon 2 Darklord tokens to your side of the field. The most important part here is that these tokens are level 6, and you're also locked into fairy monsters for the rest of the turn. Now, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Darklord card or Forbidden Quick Play spell from your deck to your hand. Now, this is where everything comes together. In my opinion, the second most important card. The deck really needed a searcher. We had a lot of ways. We only had one searcher before, which was the Banishment of the Darklord, which is a really powerful card. You can add one Darklord card from your deck to your hand. But it just wasn't enough to sort of get you what you need. And now, on top of being able to search anything Darklord, you can also finally search the Forbidden Quick Play spells from your deck as well. The next card that we have is Darklord Dance. Now, I've talked about before, this deck never really had a fusion spell. It always needed to use the Despian Theater to sort of get to the first Darklord. So finally, they printed a dedicated fusion card. This isn't really anything special, in my opinion. It just sort of summons from the graveyard by banishing monsters, so hand, field, or graveyard. I've sort of wished it could have been maybe like a branded fusion or some sort of iteration of it, similar to, let's say, what Draco Tail got. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think I'm happy, you know, that they still have this. So, the older cards, we're going to touch on them really quickly. A lot of people know about Eggshell already, and there's been a couple of questions that we had before the stream. This was probably the most powerful card that the deck had before Burst Protocol. It was basically, you would discard this card and one Darklord card, and you would draw 2 cards. This effect on its own was incredible. It puts 2 of your Darklord cards in the graveyard, which is where they sort of prefer to be. It draws you 2 cards. And also, if you can get this card on the field, which there's plenty of ways to do that, you can copy basically any spell or trap, Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard and copy its effect, which I was mentioning, the sort of main gameplay loop of the deck. And then we have Darklord Morningstar, sort of the centerpiece of the deck, the first Darklord. This is the original version of him. This card doesn't really do anything, which is a bit disappointing. In sort of lower powered formats, you could use the effect is basically if you tribute summon, you can sort of special summon Darklord monsters from your hand or deck up to the number of monsters your opponent controls. So let's say you are able to tribute summon Morningstar, and your opponent has like 4 or 5 monsters on their side of the field, and for some reason he cannot negate this effect. This is a really solid effect, but at the end of the day, this is a level 11 monster. And the main reason we run him is very simple. In order for you to board wipe your opponent, you need to use the Darklord Morningstar as fusion material for the first Darklord. Post support, this is really easy to achieve. Before, honestly, it was super situational. So the first Darklord was just mostly used because of the Christia lock more than the Darklord Morningstar. Now onto the spells here. There's a couple of powerful ones. We've talked about the Searcher. There is a Monster Reborn for the deck specifically. It's just special summon a Darklord monster. You can activate it only once per turn. And now we have a couple of traps for the deck. I'll just talk about them very briefly since a couple of them are not really good. But what the ones that I would choose to run is the effect Negate, which is the Sanctified Darklord, and the Monster Seal, which is the Darklord Enchantment. Now, so they can be situational, so you can sort of swap them out. I think the other ones are not really worth running. This one's a trap that fusion summons from the extra deck, and the Darklord Descent. You can special summon Darklord monsters from your graveyard. That's it. So, not really good, but there's 2 good ones in there, and they're worth running in the main deck. The Forbidden Spells, you all know about them, but I want to talk about basically the star of the show for Burst Protocol, and it's Darklord Evening Star. This card just fixed every problem the deck had. This is a fusion monster that finally gets you the sort of end board pieces that you need, so that you no longer have to rely on how you played the deck previously. You set 1 Darklord spell and 1 Darklord trap from your deck, and also, like the good Darklord names, you can copy any of the spells and traps in your graveyard, and then apply their effects and shuffle them into the deck. So, complete game changer, absolutely nuts, absolutely insane, and that's all the new cards that the deck has received. So I'll just take a short little break here if you guys have any questions about what we've sort of talked about so far, or anything you'd like to talk about. Yeah, Christia is so there's a funny little thing where we talked about this before. It's about Darklord Serato. He was an Archlord before he became a Darklord, so in some way the Archlords are the good Sanctuary Warriors, and then the Darklords are obviously the fallen angels of the Sanctuary. So Christia is an Archlord. It's probably, if I'm correct, the only other Archlord card other than Zerato, so it is connected to the Darklord lore, so you wouldn't be far off calling it like a Darklord card, so.
Alright, it doesn't seem that we have any questions, so you're free to keep pushing.
Alright. Okay, so I've mentioned the pure Darklord deck, so I just want to talk about it a little bit here, sort of explain my thought process on how I've constructed the deck and everything, and then later I'm going to show you a combo on how the deck works. Now, talk about the Darklord cards, but there's one card that's worth mentioning here, and it's sort of an honorary Darklord card. It's a Dawn Angel Cambi. If you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are fairy monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then by tributing any number of fairy monsters you control, you can special summon a fairy monster from the deck whose levels equal the total levels of the monsters you had on the field. Now, you don't get to use this in a way where you get to summon Jehudi. However, there is a loop where you can summon the Trickstar Nightshade, go into the Trickstar Link 1, and then you get to revive the Trickstar Nightshade, and that gets you 2 fairies on the field. Now let's talk about why this is so important. The other cornerstone of this deck is the Condemned Darklord. This is of course the Condemned Maiden after she became a Darklord. This is basically the main searcher of the deck. You can discard 1 card and either send or add a Darklord, specifically monster, from your deck. Now, getting any 2 fairies gets you to this card, which basically gets you to your Darklord combo. Now, what's important here, and the reason why this is important, is you need to save your normal summon. So Cambi saves you the normal summon, so you can search DJ and get your combo going. If you can't do that, unfortunately, the piloting the deck becomes a little bit more on, if you have that card, you can continue playing. If you don't, you're sort of stuck in the same place. Now, the main crux, I would say the main choke point of the deck is definitely the normal summon. If you can get rid of DJ, if you can negate this normal summon, there isn't really a way to play through it. I've talked about this before, and in testing, this was the most difficult part to sort of figure out how you're supposed to play the deck if the main card gets impermed, veilered, or any sort of interaction on. And basically, this comes to the only logical conclusion that we can do is that we need to supplement the deck with a good engine that can generate fairy bodies, which will get you to the Condemned Darklord. So, from my testing, my favorite version, and what I consider currently the best version of the deck, even though the results don't really say it, is Darklord Melodious, actually. Now, we all know Melodious because it has one of the most broken spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! Which is just, you can fusion summon a Melodious fusion using 2 monsters from your deck or hand. It's basically Brand of Fusion. There's no locks, there's nothing, and it's not even once per turn, so if this card gets ashed, you can just continue playing. I'll show you a combo, of course, with mainly the Refrain normal summon and the Ostinato. There's nothing really too difficult here to explain. You just need the names for the Melodious cards. You need Ostinato. We still play Dawn Angel Cambi. The only reason you do this is because you want to maximize on your starters, which means if you have a Refrain, it's a 1-card combo. Cambi is a 1-card combo. Darklord Jehudi, along with the Banishment of the Darklords, is also a 1-card combo. So you got a good sort of mix of starters, as well as hand traps. In my opinion, I think you can fit a lot here. I think one of the main positives of this deck in the TCG is that we can play Herald of the Orange Light, as well as Master Rule. Herald of the Orange Light at 3, which is just one of the more insane hand traps if you can use them. It's basically a monster gate by discarding a fairy. And there's quite a couple of solid discards here. Specifically, if you can discard the Gold Get to get your Searcher, but basically any sort of fairy, as long as you can. Even Morningstar, discarding him is insanely solid value. We also get to play the Fallen and the Virtuous, which from my testing, I found that this card is really good because if you normal summon the DJ and they try to sort of interact with it, you can just pop the DJ, dodge like a Veiler or an Imperm or something like that. So this card, in my opinion, in this version of the deck, you have to play because you just want to have like as many options to play the game. The extra deck. I'm going to talk about the cards one by one. We have the requirements for the Fallen and the Virtuous. which is a pop. We run the Ecclesia and we run the Albion. The Albion, of course, to set another one, or the Ecclesia for the effect to sort of bounce back the fusion, and then bounce a card from the opponent. And then we have Baka, which is the fusion monster that we use for Ostinato. Now we have two. The reason we have two Baka is because we are nip-proofing our lines if we draw Ostinato. The way we're doing that is Baka is level 7, and we make the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, which needs 2 level 7 monsters. It's absolutely generic. Once we do that, we sort of face the first problem that we've had in figuring out how to link this with the Darklord part of the deck while being insulated and being able to play through Nibiru. The way we do that is the only generic fairy monster, link monster that can be made with just about anything is Artifact Dagda. So all you need is just 2 monsters, different names, and you link off the rank 7 and the I'm pretty sure it's the other refrain, and then you link them off into the Condemned to get your search, and then you're basically off to the races there. The other one is the new Darklord Evening Star. You run it at 2 copies because sometimes in the grind game you want to summon the other one, sort of grab whatever you need. Basically just sets a trap and a spell from the deck. In grind games I think it's pretty useful. You also sort of don't want it sniped for whatever reason, depending on which deck you're playing. And then we have one of the first Darklord. We only need 1 copy because you sort of use this going second, or at least the way I use it is I only summon it going second to blow up boards. I have 1 replay where I've sort of used this, which I'll show later. There's also a line to summon Christia, which I'll unfortunately have to show, since if you want to win, I think you sort of should side it, but because it sort of goes against my principles, I don't really want to, puppet Christia Lock or whatever, so I just sort of don't play it. We have the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. It's an Omni Negate, just incredible card. Like any deck that can get to this, which is usually Penta decks, should be summoning this card. So very fortunate to sort of find a line here with the Baka to get into the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. We talked about Dagda. Just the reason we run it is the generic link. And then the Trickstar Kolchika is here for the 1 card Cambi, or even 1 card normal summon Nightshade if really, push comes to shove here. Moon, Protector of the Asians, sort of going second card. You want to summon it so that you can destroy a card your opponent controls by attributing a fairy monster. Sort of just removal. It's good, in my opinion. I don't think it's worth removing, like adding something like Masquerena or SP. I think this just works well in the deck. The other card is Herald of Mirage Lights. This is the other good part about being a fairy deck, is you have access to, I would say, one of the more busted Link 2s in the game, which you basically send the fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard and you negate a spell or trap. This is consistently a part of your end board, maybe even going second if your opponent has like a lot of set cards. You sort of just get this, and it can even help you combo by sending one of the pieces to the graveyard while also, negating your opponent's interaction. And then we have something that I'm pretty excited to talk about, and I didn't really see people use, is Summon Sorceress. Now, this is the errata version, so I'm just going to briefly go over what it does. If it's Link Summon, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand in defense position to your opponent's zone. Of course, the effects will be negated, but this lets you summon 1 monster from your deck with the same type as the monster, but its effects are also negated. This is basically all you need to read about the card. The reason why this is so important is because the new fusion spell that the deck has allows you to fusion summon while using a Darklord monster from any side of the field. So it doesn't specifically have to be on your field. It can be on the opponent's field, which is why having Summon Sork, summon a Darklord name from your hand to the opponent's field is really good. And of course we have Gulgul Get, which searches the fusion spell when it's sent to the graveyard. So it doesn't need to trigger its effect on field. All it needs to do is just Summon Sork needs to summon it. It'll go to the graveyard being linked off, and then you have basically a way to get to Darklord Evening Star. So I'm gonna show the combo here. One sec, just see where it is. All right. So we start off by, this is just normal summoning Refrain. Before, this was a very bad combo. I'm not sure if I can slow this down. Can I slow this down? Hold on. Maybe Royal, can you help me out here? Is there a way to slow down the replays on Omega, or are they just keep it fast like this?
I don't use Omega.
You don't use Omega? Yeah, honestly, I don't use it either.
Top right gear, and then game speed. Shurin said.
Oh, game speed. Okay, yeah, okay, sure. Nice. All right, maybe even slightly lower, and then let's see how this feels. Just to go into it again. So basically, I'll show you the Ostinato combo, but let's start with the worst combo, which before was not good. So the way that Summon Sorcerers helps us here, combo, we normal summon Refrain, we add the couplet, scale the couplet to add the Concerto, go into Baka, Baka summons the other Refrain, we link them off, draw one card, and then we have a way to grab our Darklord cards here. Then we go into Summon Sork, summon a Darklord on the opponent's side of the field, to our side of the field as well. We'll link them off into Dagda, because it's the generic link here. A search for the fusion spell. The fusion spell that gets us the Darklord fusion, which sets the spell in the trap. We pen summon 2 Refrains from the extra deck. We go into the Herald of the Mirage Lights. Now we copy the effect, search the contact. Now here, there's a couple of things you can do. Of course, it just depends on what you have in your hand. If you didn't summon Eggshell, you could revive it to have like another thing to copy. You can search the other trap. There's sort of multiple ways for you to figure out how you want to play. Here we just have both of the traps set, along with an ability to copy a spell or a trap from the graveyard. Now the main thing that we usually do here is we either copy one of the traps we already used, depending on sort of what the situation needs. If you, let's say, use the Sanctified Darklord to negate something, and you need to negate something again, we'll just copy the effect from the graveyard, and then that's the additional sort of point of interaction that we have. The Herald of Mirage Lights is the spell and trap negate, and also whatever we have in our hand. If we were lucky enough to sort of get more additional pieces, we could copy the fusion spell to go into the first Darklord and then sort of blow up the entire opponent's field. However, with just one Refrain, we aren't able to set up all these points of interactions. But still, this is really good for just a normal summon of Refrain in a way where it bridges into the Darklord cards. Now we're gonna show Ostinato here next, just so you can see like the full potential of the deck. Let me just apply this. So we're gonna start off by activating Ostinato. We're gonna summon Baka. Baka's gonna special summon the Refrain. We go the standard route, we just add the couplet. Couplet's gonna scale. Revive the reframe first. Now we can see how Melodious is helping us generate like all these bodies. Even if at any point you're just negated here because the opponent's like worried about what you're gonna do, you just have enough to bridge already, and you're sort of fine. Now this is the good part. We get the Omni Negate out of the way. We summon the additional bodies, and now we're just fully protected. Like, we literally don't care what the opponent does here and how they want to interact with us. And then we start bridging to the Darklord part of the deck. Of course, we didn't use our normal summon, so we're just gonna normal summon the DJ. He special summons the Golgolget, which will summon the 2 tokens. And then you're gonna see why these tokens are important for the fusion spell. 2 tokens gets you to the Evening Star. Evening Star sets the spell in the trap. And we also get to draw 2. And we add additional follow-up with the DJ. So we're going to talk about what's going on here, just because I want to explain what's happening. So this M board is pretty much insane. the Omni Negate here with the Vortex Dragon, we have the Spell and Trap Negate. We have 2 different names that can copy spells and traps from the graveyard, which means when you use your spells and traps, which for some reason in this combo I've set to Fallen and Virtuous instead of searching the other trap. I've searched the follow-up instead of searching the trap. But usually you would have 2 of the different traps that you run here, and then once you use one, you can copy it with Eggshell, you use the other, you can copy it with Evening Star, and that's literally from just those 2 monsters and those 2 traps. It's like 4 different interactions. And then also whatever it is that you draw off of Eggshell. Here we were like lucky enough to draw into Herald of Orange Light, but for example, in some variations you could run like multiple of the Orange Lights. I'll just show it here. So obviously there's Herald of the Green Light, which in my opinion isn't as strong, but it's not a bad card to side. But if I would side it, I would side it at like 1 or 2. I wouldn't really put it at 3, because I don't think, depending on your matchup, right? Like, maybe there's a matchup where you want all 3. I don't know, like Draco Tail or something. You'd probably want all 3 just so you can get it. But yeah, there's like you can draw into your Ash, even if you draw into Crown. If you already have your combo, obviously, you can always search the forbidden spells. Now I run Droplet in the side, but it's more of a what sort of meta we are in, and that sort of decides if you want to run Droplet or Crown. In my opinion, I think Droplet is worth siding, but it's not really worth running in the main just yet. We don't have the new card, if you guys aren't aware. There's another piece of Darklord support that I just want to quickly touch upon. It is the Fallen Angel in Darkness. Now this card released in a special set in December. It's another trap to add to the trap lineup for Darklords. You can send a fairy monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, and then special summon a Darklord monster from your hand, deck, or banishment. Now, I want to touch upon why this card is better than it reads, because we're gonna be honest, it doesn't really read all that well. There's a couple of powerful ones. We mentioned there's even a fusion trap, but that one isn't worth using. If you set the Fallen Angel in Darkness, your most powerful summon is Eggshell, and once you get this trap, this is why I'm sort of thinking about 2 Eggshells. So if you draw one, put it in the graveyard or whatever you decide to do with it, you just sort of want to have the additional copy either for the grind game or just to like summon it off, just depending on how you choose to play. So Fallen Angel of Darkness gets you the additional copy name, and you can also copy it to sort of summon the Darklord Morningstar, or which can get you the pop when you use the fusion spell. So on the opponent's turn, you're gonna have just more points of interaction than you've had before. So I think this card is worth running. The main thing to consider is it really worth running free traps in the deck, and how it impacts your consistency. So what most people are doing at this moment is they're just running two, and you sort of have to decide on which of the two traps you think are best for the meta. I was considering free for the longest time. I just think it's a bit overboard. So we're just gonna have to see how things shape up after this card releases. I assume it's going to be in August with the Battles of Legends set that we do get it. I don't think it's gonna release the ceiling of the deck too much. However, I want to talk about a card that will increase the ceiling of the deck, and it's the generic fairy that'll be released in Blazing Dominion in May, if I'm correct. It's Lahamu, the Messenger of the Sacred Scripture. Once this card is link summoned, by the way, it's a generic fairy, similar to Dagda, so in my opinion, this will just completely replace Dagda in the extra deck. You can normal summon one level 5 or higher monster without tributing. And then immediately after this effect dissolves, you get an additional normal summon of a level 5 or higher dark monster. It's a way to extend your plays, it's a way to continue playing, and what we sort of already know about Darklords and what I've talked about before is Darklords have a lot of high level monsters. There's essentially only one level 4 monster that's worth running, and everything else is high level. So Lahamu lets you summon the Goggle Get, lets you summon the Eggshell to copy an additional name, and more importantly for Christia enjoyers, it lets you search Asmodeus, and Asmodeus dumps a fairy monster from the deck to the graveyard, which you will very easily revive with the first Darklord, so you get your Christia lock. This is basically Lahamu in a nutshell, enables Christia Turbo to become even more real. I'll show a version of how you can do the Christia lock before Lahamu. It's still possible. It's just slightly more convoluted without just being able to like normal summon your Asmodeus for free. So Lahamu increases the ceiling of the deck by a lot. I think the card that we will that'll sort of bring this deck to a higher level is this Link monster specifically. And there's another one we're gonna talk about really briefly. It's a Dark Fairy Searcher. I'm just gonna try to remember the name of this card. Archmage. Wait, it's not Archmage. Maybe Rossi can help me. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we get a generic, well, not generic, but let's say semi-generic Dark Fairy Searcher. Now, we already have a Searcher, but getting another Searcher for basically any Dark Fairy monster, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. The only thing that you need to do is you need to send a Power Patron monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, which there is a Power Patron monster that essentially searches this card by itself that you can send, so on its own it functions as another way to get to basically any Darklord name. Now why is this so important? We've talked about pure Darklord and how it sort of lacks multiple ways to play. Having another Dark Fairy Searcher sort of enhances your multiple card combos with Eggshell, the whole reason you want run free to extend your plays further, the reason why you run 2 fusion spells, but also what I would consider probably one of the more important things is Pure lets you abuse one of the most broken cards in the entire game, which is Dominus Impulse, and also the new Dominus Spark card. So after the new support releases, the Pure version of this deck gets access to both Spark and Impulse, which sort of fixes the whole, oh, this deck only has a couple of ways to play, because now you have so many quality ways of interacting with your opponent. First of all, you have like Full Loss, Orange Light, and Ash, which in my opinion are probably the three most impactful hand traps you could run here, along with the dominant spells and my choice, which will entirely depend on how like the meta shapes up in the future, will be Super Poly, which is another way to sort of go first and second, sort of remove whatever your opponent has. So Pure just gets a really nice boost from these new cards. But for now, like in sort of the current state of it, it's not as good. Now, I want to talk about the other version now that we've sort of covered Darklord and Melodious. If anybody has any questions or sort of want to see anything else from Darklord Melodious, you can ask here before you sort of move on to the Solfachord version of the deck.
We got somebody typing.
Let's go.
Also, I just since we're having a little break, because Frost brought it up earlier, the fact that we're doing this evil, like lore deck on Easter is kind of funny.
Oh yeah, bro, I honestly totally forgot that's Easter, because when Rossi mentioned it, I was like, oh my god, we absolutely picked like a difficult date for people.
Not specifically Melodious. Okay, you read it. My bad.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna. I already sort of mentioned very briefly the traps. You're talking about enchantment. Now, enchantment is the trap that lets you take control of an opponent's monster until the end phase, and you can only activate once per turn, of course. So, in the sense, or basically in the grand scheme of things, this is a double snatch steal. This is double steal from your opponent. In certain metas, this is a very powerful card, just removing something your opponent absolutely needs as a piece for them to combo is incredible. But this is entirely dependent on how generically useful it is at like the current meta that you're playing in. So for my testing, I actually like this card, and in the Solfachord version of the deck, which I'll sort of have to see. I don't run it, but I did used to run it in that version of the deck. But I would say it's just entirely meta dependent. There isn't a specific reason why you should run, one or the other. Like, let's say, destroy a card on the field, it's just a pop. But that pop can be super valuable. Let's say there's a lot of continuous spells, there's field spells, there's just removal if you remove a monster from the board. So I would say the way that you interchange this is you either decide if you want Rebellion, which is the pop, or you want the enchantment, which is the monster steal. So nothing wrong with either. I think both are pretty cool. It's just you switch one for the other depending on what you're expecting and what you're playing against.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you covered it, but the cool thing is that the fact that Evening Star just takes the effects of the traps and the spells and doesn't have to pay the cost for them, kind of like a transaction rollback. So
exactly, yeah. The Evening Star, the way and every copy name is the same. There's a couple of copy names I'll mention. I'll mention just the most important ones that we don't run them anymore because they're not as good. But there's Darklord and Dusk, which can target a Darklord spell and trap and copy its effects and then shuffle it into the deck. It's the same effect that Ixchel has, it's the same effect that Evening Star has, and also it's the same effect that, let me just find him somewhere here. I'll just search them. The same effect that Nastin has, which is just copy it and completely just ignore the fact that you have to pay some sort of a cost for activating these, and also you bypass the once per turn limitation that some of these cards have, like banishment or contract. Usually in your combo, you would use banishment once to search something, and then you would copy the effect of banishment to search the other trap. So in your combo, you can pretty much always search both traps, whichever ones you're sort of deciding to run. But yeah. Yo, we got Coach in the building. Let's go.
Alright, I guess we should talk about Darklord.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Solfachord Darklord, but before we go into it, there's a pretty important divisive package, I would say, in the community. I'm just going to post it here because it's easier for me to show them like this. So it's Indulged and Nastin. The reason I've talked about this card before, as it was one of the lower level monsters in Darklords, that it doesn't start your combo, but it sort of lets you play further if you'd like. So you can take 2 Darklord monsters from your hand or deck with different levels. You special summon one to the opponent's field, and then you add the other one to your hand. Now, in my opinion, what they should have done with this card is you should have summoned one to your field and summoned one to the opponent's field. Probably with their effects negated to sort of balance it out. Like similar to like a summon circle or whatever. And they sort of made the new fusion spell in a way where you can also use the opponent's Darklord monsters. And specifically, if you summon something with Darklord, then Indulge Darklord, you can use the dance spell to use that monster on the enemy's side of the field to opponent's side of the field to fusion summon. Now, Nastin is the third, or in this case, fourth copy name. The way you special summon him is you discard 2 Darklord cards, and then if he's on your field, and you get to, pay 1,000, copy any spell or trap, yada yada yada. The reason why it's bad is the cost of summoning this card, or sort of setting it up to a way where you summon him on the field, is too much. Like, the discarding 2 cards, you gotta set it up in a way where you always have those 2 cards, where you have a way to discard them. It's not 9.9 times out of 10 is better to just summon Eggshell and then, or sort of get her to the graveyard and then use the Darklord contact to revive her from the graveyard, so you get the copy name on your field, instead of having to like do all this work, to get Nastin on your board. And plus the Indulged by itself doesn't really do anything, and it's a normal summon, so it just doesn't get you anywhere. So just wanted to sort of briefly mention that, since it was something that like a lot of people were testing. I tested it as well, but like just really shortly, and figured that it just wasn't worth it. So let's get into Solfachord. Solfachord, this is the deck that currently has 2 tops in professional Yu-Gi-Oh! It's quite recently as well. So this is a very powerful engine, and it's used in a meta deck that's currently dominating, or maybe now doing well rather than dominating, Master Duel. Solfachord Yummy. Now, the reason why this engine is very good is because of the recent support that it's got in the form of Solfachord Happiness. Now, what this card does is, for 1 discard, you get to add 2 Solfachord Pendulum names with different scales, and then you can special summon one of them. This is absolutely insane. The other effect you sort of don't really need to read, but I'm just gonna gloss over it really quickly since it's sort of relevant for Solfachord itself. During the main phase, you can conduct 1 Pendulum Summon of a Solfachord in addition to your Pendulum Summon. This doesn't come up when this is used in an engine, but if you do sort of use it in like pure or in like a pen deck, it does come up. So this gets you 2 names. It gets you a free special summon, and the way that the main monsters work, which we're going to go over, is once you get that free summon, you get more free summons, you start linking, and you start getting to your plays. So, first off, from the new support, it's Solfachord Primo. When you pendulum summon a monster, you can target a Solfachord card in your pendulum zone and return it to the hand. This is really useful for recovering your pieces and adding them to your hand, because it's very important when it's used as an engine. You want to add your pieces back to your hand so you can use the additional names as scales. So you get to pendulum summon your Darklord monster, which is DJ, which is the way that even normal summoning Primoa, you're still able to sort of get to DJ and then pen summon him, which is something that I sort of forgot to mention, but in the Melodious version of the deck, as you know, pen summoning, you can only pen summon lights. If I'm not sure which one locks here. It could be couplet if I'm not wrong. Yeah, you cannot pendulum summon except light monsters, which makes getting to your DJ and sort of pendulum summoning him or whatever after using normal summon, on refrain or whatever, it may be really difficult. So that's why the whole summon source line exists. A Solfachord, on the other hand, just doesn't have this problem at all. So the next part of the effect, which is it's just a searcher. You can add a Solfachord card from your deck to your hand, and then if you link summon a Solfachord monster while Primoa is on the field, you can add a card from your graveyard or face of extra deck to your hand. So this is a really good card. It's a great normal summon, and you'll see there's a pretty interesting way that we can use this card without normal summoning her. Those that have maybe figured it out from me mentioning Camby before, she's present in the deck. In the versions that I've seen, people don't want to run her, but in my opinion, this card is just a Primoa without the normal summon, which is like really, really good. So you just special summon Camby, you tribute her, and then you summon Primoa since it's a level 1. It's the same principle with the Trickstar cards. It's just a free way to get the Primoa, and then you can, like, let's say this gets negated, you can normal summon any fairy, and then you have a link to into the Condemned Darklord to sort of get your Darklord plays going. So it's really good in my opinion. I think this Primoa is either a 2 or a 3 of, but because I decided to run Camby, I think you can sort of drop it to a 2 of. Next one is Solfachord Solfagia. I'm hoping I'm not butchering that. When a monster effect is activated by your opponent on the field, when a monster effect activated by your opponent on the field resolves, and you control a Grand Solfachord monster, which is the Solfachord Link monsters, you can negate the effect and destroy this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. Now, this is the effect of this card when it's in your pendulum scale. And then if you control no monsters or all monsters you control or Solfachord monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can also special summon an additional Solfachord monster from your hand when you activate the effect to sort of tribute this card. This isn't really something relevant or that comes up, but what you really care about is this is an extender if you once you set up your Solfachord names. And then the final monster for Solfachord, this is a pretty small engine. There's no bricks. Well, this is technically sort of the only brick in the deck. So when the pendulum summons of Solfachord monsters cannot be negated, which isn't really relevant. But if it's normal or special summoned, which usually special summon it with the effect of happiness, you can add a Solfachord pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. So even by itself, the Curia can get you the Solfagia, and then Solfagia can special summon herself. So it's not really even a brick. And then we have a rather different lineup from sort of what you see. We have free go get. The reason we're doing this is because the happiness requires you to discard a Darklord monster, and then once you discarded go get, you can just basically search either a droplet or a crown or a Darklord card that you need. So it's really good, considering that you would often use even normal summoning Primoa. You still grab happiness, so you still have the discard. So really useful to run this card at 3. Eggshell, I run it at 1. I think increasing it to 2 once the new trap comes out is probably the way to go. But for now, in this version of the deck, not more than 1 is needed. The rest of the lineup's absolutely the same. Nothing really changes here. However, there's a couple of interesting things that the Solfachord engine sort of opens up for you. The main thing is that you can use Beyond the Pendulum and Exceed the Pendulum, which are sort of Pendulum exclusive Link monsters, which are really good, by the way. And the main issue for Solfachord was it was considered to be a bad engine going second. And a lot of the time when you would see people use Solfachord and Darklords, people would always say, oh, you would just side out the entire engine going second because it's just not good enough. However, the Pendulum Link monsters enable you a really easy access code line that I'll show later, which you just get to first pop 2 with Beyond the Pendulum, and then you also get to pop 2 with access code Talker, effectively making your Solfachord engine infinitely more useful going second, and you know all the conversations that people have just sort of go in the mud. The rest of the extra deck is really mostly the same. You have the Proxy of Magician, which is sort of another way for you to fuse summon. Nothing in particular to say there, and I'll just read over the Solfachord extra deck monsters real quick. This one, you never use this effect, by the way. The only reason that you do it is link summoning into Musekia enables you to activate the effect of Primoa. When you link summon a Solfachord monster, you can add a Solfachord card from your graveyard or face-up extra deck to your hand. That's the only reason you want this card. This entire text can just be blank and you still run this card, so that's it. And then the Grand Solfachord Kulia, which is a really cool card. The activated effects of Pendulum monsters this card points to cannot be negated, which unfortunately isn't really relevant here. But once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon a Solfachord card with an odd pendulum scale from your pendulum zone to a zone this card points to, and if you do, you can negate the activation. This is a pretty crazy way to basically just have a Omni negate on the field from like from one link free monster, which is pretty easy to climb into. So this makes the Solfachord engine a way for you to access multiple negates, and this is sort of the main way you go through it on the opponent's turn. Cool, yeah. If anybody remembers this card and the Zark from the trap, the souls of whatever it's called, when you summon it, you just get to bypass the restriction. So yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about the link free. That's sort of how I knew about it originally. I'm just gonna drink some tea real quickly. If anybody has any questions regarding Solfachord or anything else, feel free to ask.
I would ask, why is the Solfachord variant considered better than the Melodious variant beyond the... Because...
Okay, now, so very good question. From my testing, I'll give you a couple of key points on what I think. Even though this is my favorite version, this doesn't necessarily mean it's the best version. but in testing it has like performed very admirably. So Ostinato by itself, if you compare it to Happiness, it's a better card. Like obviously, it's a better card. However, if you draw a couplet with Ostinato, your entire combo is just your good combo is dead. You can still sort of combo, you can still sort of play the game, but the combo where you sort of nip-proof yourself, the one I showed earlier, is just dead. As well as before we sort of figured out the summon sort line, the normal summon of a refrain was just not good. And then also a concerto, while it's not bad because it's a generic fairy fusion, which you can also make the evening star with this as well. Just for those that don't know, is also a brick. So there's a lot of combinations of cards you sort of don't want to see, while and you also need to play a third engine, which adds another brick in Trickstar Nightshade with Dawn Angel Cambi, just so you can get enough sort of starters in your deck to sort of justify, running the whole engine. While on Solfachord, it's a lot more cohesive. It doesn't hurt to draw these cards at all. Drawing Curia, drawing the Primoa or Cambi is no longer, like, let's say there's no Trickstar Nightshade, which means Cambi by itself is, you can't brick with this card. You can just summon the Primoa, but if you draw, let's say, Cambi with the Trickstar name, Cambi suddenly becomes, useless. So, and also the fact that the going second play for Solfachord itself is 4 pops, it makes it like incredibly valuable going second. And also, it's just sort of feels more compact. So I would say if I were to like rate them or sort of scale, they're really not that far apart, in my opinion. They're just very slight synergies with Solfachord. Obviously, you like having Morningstar in your graveyard, because when you copy the fusion spell, then you have the field wipe. So sending him with Happiness is really good. Sending Golkolget with Happiness is also amazing. Even sending Inkshell is not terrible, considering you can just revive her with Contact. So a lot of little synergies there. I think they just make Solfachord, I would say, more competitively attractive to people. There's like a reason why the 2 tops are Solfachord Darklord instead of Melodious Darklord, basically. Okay, I'm gonna just show the going second Solfachord combo really quickly. Also, I'll very briefly just touch upon this, but since we've never really seen the pure the pure version play, it's super simple. I'll do it in a test hand if I can like draw something that is not a brick, because the current version of the pure Darklords is just like a brick fest. But yeah, sure, let's like try a couple of test hands. So in here we have an interesting hand, but we drew the Cambi, so we still get to play the video game. So we're gonna show the Trickstar line here. We normally summon especially summon the Cambi. We get to the Trickstar. Trickstar links it to the Link 1, and then it special summons itself. And suddenly, we have 2 fairies on the field. Now this is very easy. Now we just go for the Condemned Darklord. Now the really cool thing about this hand is we already drew the piece that we need to sort of combo and keep playing. So we don't need to send this or search it or anything. So what we can do is we can discard the Golgolget. Now I'm sort of thinking here what the best line would be, but I think it's still getting to DJ, because there's a line here where you can grab eggshell, and because we already have one of the traps, we can sort of draw two and gamba a little bit. But I think going for a safer route, you know, adding DJ to hand, and then we just get the normal combo going. We can use the effect here. We'll grab the fusion. Actually, this speed is killing me now. So what I have it like slightly faster. So we normally summon the DJ. DJ will always summon the gold will get, which will get you the 2 tokens. And then these will always go into the orange light, or what's the name, mirage lights. And then you'll fusion summon with the 2 tokens into the Darklord Evening Star. And since we have already one trap, this is really good. This means we get to set 1 enchantment and 1 banishment. So we set them up, we of course shuffle them so the opponent doesn't know which one is which, but they'll, you know, find out once you do this. So usually what we do here with banishment of the Dark Lords is we would search a contact, like, but the problem here is we don't have an eggshell. So I'm sort of debating here what would be the best play. I think there's a really interesting one where we can just get multiple pieces. So we could absolutely just draw 2 here. So we grab eggshell, we activate her effect, we can discard the other gold get that we draw, and there we go, perfect. So we get a Herald of Orange Light. Now the way we're going to utilize this is we're going to activate the effect of Morning Star, we're going to copy Banishment, and then we're going to add Follow-Up. The way that we're going to add Follow-Up is we're going to add a Morning Star. We add the Morning Star to our hand, and then on the opponent's turn, of course once we, you know, set everything, these 2 cards in combination are insane, because you get to negate a monster effect while also discarding the Morning Star, and on the opponent's turn you get to copy the effect of the fusion spell, which is in your graveyard, to go for the board wipe. So, you know, when this deck works, it sets itself up really well, and it's really satisfying to sort of play. The way I look at it is a sort of a mid-range, sort of control-y type of deck. The main issue is there isn't enough variety, or maybe it's worse that there isn't enough gas in like the pure version for it to just, you know, be more competitively viable. But, you know, just looking at this board, you know, any opponent would find it like really difficult to interact. So, you know, and also the effective DJ from the graveyard, it banishes itself, and then you can target sort of a Darklord or a Forbidden card in your graveyard and then add it to your hand. So this is a very good way to recycle your stuff. So, you know, let's say you want to add the gold get or something, but usually, you know, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna add the eggshell. So yeah, that's pure. Just want to sort of show a combo of that. Now, I don't know how to set up Omega in a way where I can show this, so I'm just going to show a video of it. It's the going second Solfachord line with Happiness. Shiron is saying we can bridge Cupsy Yummy way. You know, Yummy bridges into a lot of things, so... Yeah, eggshell draws are either the thing that makes you go insane in like both ways, in like a good way and a bad way. specific cards and a 6 card starting hand. How did I do that? I'll just show the combos for Solfachord, so you guys can see how this works. So we talked about how normal summoning usually isn't that crazy. So Dawn Angel Cambi is just an additional copy of Primoa, so you'll see how this functions here, where we don't start with happiness, but we get the special summon Primoa and then search for the happiness. Oh, did this apply? Okay. So we get the Primoa, we search the happiness, and then we activate happiness to discard a card. Now we're just gonna pause here real quickly. We discarded a really good card. You want this in your graveyard to use for the fusion summon on the opponent's turn to blow up the field. Once we, with happiness, we grab the 2 additional names, which is Solfachord, and the Curio. Now, we special summon the Curio with the effect of happiness, and then we add the second Primoa to our hand. Now here, we get a free special summon, of course, we're going to use it. And now the important part here is to keep Primoa on the field so we can activate its effect once you link summon the link to Solfachord, which lets you add back the Solfachord to get the additional pendulum scale. So there we go. Now we scale both of these. We go into the link 2. We already have DJ, but just for the sake of things, I'm pretending we did not. So we're just gonna add the DJ as if we didn't have him already. And then we're gonna pen summon the 2. We're gonna activate the effect of Promote to add itself back to hand, and the effect of DJ. And then we sort of know where this goes. The Galgo gets you the 2 tokens. We get the Mirage Lights. And then we fusion summon with the 2 tokens and go into the link 3 from the Solfachord engine to get to our Omni Negate. Now here, I choose to do a thing. So when you have Eggshell and you want a Gamba, when you search the trap, or when you have the other trap in your hand, you can choose to discard it, because you can still use it from the graveyard with the copy effect. So, you know, if you're feeling like gambling, you just normal summon the Eggshell, and then the Eggshell can copy the trap, or the Darklord Evening Star can copy the trap that you discarded. You want to draw at the beginning of your deck list, and then click the top 3 cards, left icon, one on the 3 cards. Lets you do a test hand. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, but like, I guess test hands are more interesting if they're random. I don't know. Let me see if I have another one. So this, all the free ones. The other one that I wanted to show. Enable deck shuffling. Oh, okay, sure. Let me just show the going second Solfachord. So it's a video, but I'll try to sort of talk over it. So we already know how the happiness combo works going first, but let's sort of assume we're going second here. You know, your opponent sets a couple of traps, it's some sort of board. So we're gonna start with happiness, obviously. We're gonna discard the random card that we have. And then we're gonna summon the Promoa. And then the Promoa is gonna add the Curia. Special summon all of them, we grab the additional Promoa, and then here's where the line changes. We go into beyond the pendulum here, which lets us, of course, add the other Solfachord, which is the reason why we run 2 instead of 1. Then we're going to scale both of them. Pen summon, we get 2 pops here. And then we also get to add the Promoa back to hand. And then we go exceed the pendulum. Into access code. Access code pop 1, pop 2, and then we just link it off with the Condemned Darklord. And then we just, you know, proceed with the combo as I've shown it before. So this is really good. Like, people actually didn't figure this out until recently. I never would have thought to use the pendulum cards, but that's just because I'm not a pendulum guy, so I wasn't really looking at what you could potentially do with stuff like Beyond the Pendulum and Exceed, as well as Access Code, because I felt like link climbing into Access Code would just be, you know, ridiculously insane. Okay, the other thing I want to show, if I can get this working, of course. So, I've talked about how the Melodious, or well, both versions of the deck, have a lot of different gas going second. So I just want to show, see if I can stream this correctly. Can you see Master Rule Pro on the stream or no? Because I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I think it's you should be able to see it now. Or Will, can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So I was playing against Rossi. We were sort of testing, you know, different versions of Darklords, and this is he goes first, and he basically sets up like an FTK board, but I show how to play this deck going second properly, sort of, you know, sequence it in the best way that you can. So we're gonna slow this down a little bit, we're gonna fast this until he finishes the combo, and then we're gonna slow it down. Alright, so we're going second. He just has like the god board with everything set up. Our hand is absolutely fine. This is ridiculously solid for going second hand. However, this is where it doesn't get solid. We talked about this earlier when Royal asked, if you draw this card, your combo is just while this doesn't happen, let's say if you're going second with happiness, if you like drew the Solfachord, you do run 2 already, and it doesn't hurt you because it's a free special summon. So we drew the couplet here, making our Ostinato combo infinitely worse because we don't have the effect where when couplet is searched, she can special summon a Melodious from the graveyard. So like she reveals herself, and then you special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. So we just basically like lose more bodies that we can sort of spam to sort of, you know, help us play the video game. So we're gonna start off here with Ostinato. Obviously, it's like the choice here. One of the main reasons too is that we have droplets, so we can sort of combine the two. But the main issue here is if you know Archmage, this doesn't do a whole lot. Like I think I picked Diactors here, possibly, or No, I picked the litter. Reason I picked the litter is because I didn't want him blowing up my board. So the litter adds itself to hand. It would summon the owl, and then the owl would fusion summon blah blah blah. So we just don't want that happening. So we go into Baka here. Now obviously we have the couplets, so when we're supposed to summon, which we won't, because Rossi is just him, you know? So he's gonna negate with Valor. Now that's already an additional interaction that he has, like on top of everything that he set up, including his graveyard. So we're already baiting a bunch of stuff here. Then we normal summon the DJ here. There's really not a lot of choice here. So normal summon the DJ. He has another Valor, because he's him. Now, now you may be thinking this is where it ends. However, you have the best 2-card combo in the game, which is Eggshell and the Golgo-Get. So, but first we need a way to sort of do something else that doesn't involve using these 2 cards. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna link 2 into the Condemned Darklord. The Condemned Darklord is going to discard the couplet. He's going to use the trap here on this effect to revive. He's going to negate the Baka, obviously, because if we get the additional body, it helps us a lot. Because if we were able to summon the refrain, we would have been able to scale the couplet, search the concerto, etc., etc. Basically helps us continue our place. So what he did here was really good. Now he has an imperm for the Condemned. Oh, because why not? You know, why would he not have that? So we're continuing. Now we go for the 2-card combo, and the draw here is fantastic. Like, if you would rate this draw 1 out of 10, this is 11, like, on the scale. We use the Golgo-Get, we grab the fusion, we already have Eggshell and Golgo-Get in the graveyard, so we get to use both of them, and we get to summon the Evening Star. Now the Evening Star activates, he triggers his Finmail. Of course we have a way to dodge that, which is really, really good. Boom. We add the trap, we add the spell. Now we activate the spell, we add the Morning Star. The reason we're doing this is because we just want to blow everything up and we want to kill him in this turn. If we give him another chance to play, Melodious can revive himself by shuffling a monster from the hand to the deck, you know, and then summon another all, etc., etc. We just can't give him another turn. So the way we're going to not give him another turn is we're going to search the Morning Star. We're going to activate the effect of the dance, and boom, we get to summon the first Darklord with the free fairies, including the Darklord Morning Star, and then we get to blow everything up. Now, he has an ace up his sleeve, which at the time I wasn't really thinking about as much, but he has the Awakening, which basically shuffles back my monster. Or destroys it, yeah. So we blow up the entire field. If he didn't have that, that was a 5k beater, and we just win the game. But he had that, and obviously, you know, as the game goes, we don't OTK. He top decks whatever the hell he top decked. I already forgot, but yeah, he has Melodious in the graveyard as well. So yeah, or he could just add another one. So yeah, there was like if this was pure, I just wanted to sort of, the main reason why I'm showing this replay is if this was pure, you would not be playing the video game, but because this was Melodious specifically, or even Solfachord, whatever it may be, it gives you multiple ways to play the video game. It's so good. So hopefully that sort of showcased a little bit It's a very difficult spot to be in. Not an easy game by any means. There's just so many points of interaction there. Yeah. Yeah, no, Rusty doesn't get sagged. He's too good with the draws. But yeah, those nice little duel. I had more saved up on, but for some reason they're not on the not on Master Pro. So we'll sort of get to the part where Rusty's rule streams pretty soon. What I want to just figure out is if you guys want to maybe see me play games either versus people here or versus randoms, or do you have any questions about anything specifically that we've talked about here, etc., etc.
I was gonna ask, where is this deck tiered? I mean, the stream that me and Blet and Cows did, we had it in tier 3 because I asked you.
Okay.
But what is your opinion now?
How would you? First, I want to know your definition of tier 3, like in the context of like, how do you explain that to me or anybody else?
Not playable, not dog shit. Like actually
Playable, not dog shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I would say this deck ranks on the lower scale of tier 3 with that description. So pure doesn't rank anywhere. Like, I want to get that out of the way. Like, people have been like coping on this because of the impulses and the future dominus sparks and whatnot. It may go up in the future, but like in this state, this is not. But the Solfachord and the mellow versions, if you bring this to a regional, if you bring this to an open or whatever, maybe like even a ICS, I think you can perform with this deck. The main glaring issues are if the opponent knows what they're facing, it's very easy to wait for a specific part of your combo where they're just gonna stop you and you're not gonna play. Now, I didn't talk about this, but we've mentioned it a couple of times. This deck did not have a fusion spell, and it got one, and it's just like bare bones. Like, when you talk about fusion spells, Darklord Dance like ranks like Smackdown in average, just because like the fact that you can use an opponent's Darklord monster is very, very interesting. But it's not good, and if this spell gets negated, it's over. It's just over. So I have found myself in situations where I was playing Melodious Darklords, and just the fact that I had Concerto somewhere in here has helped me sort of bypass that. And the reason why Pure runs 2 is, and there's even like a very, my early testings on Pure actually had Thrust. Now, I'll talk about this card, I'll mention why it's good, and I'll mention why it's not good. The reason it's good is you have a lot of normal spells. The incredible amount, like normal traps, normal spells. This is literally your deck. Like, we are not going to talk about Droplet, because Droplet is considered like a part of your non-engine, and also it's searchable. So the first gives you contact, it gives you banishment, so it gives you your searcher, it gives you your monster reborn, it gets you to both your traps. So for some reason you can't search one, you just can now because your opponent clicked the button basically. But also Darklord Dance is a normal spell, so you can just search it with Thrust and then you can continue playing. The reason why this is at the same time this is not good, is because you don't extend your plays with this. This doesn't go anywhere. Let's say you normal summon DJ, and it gets negated, and you have Thrust. Whatever you grab off of Thrust, you cannot use, ignoring the rest of your hand. We're gonna just pretend you don't have anything else in your hand, and you normal summon DJ and you have Thrust. You grab Ixchel. Let's say you have another piece, or so, like let's say you grab Banishment. You add Ixchel if you have another Darklord card, and then Cope on the draw, which doesn't do anything. You have a Goggle-Get that you cannot discard. We're just gonna assume you can't, right? The Fusion Dance, the main problem with the spell isn't the spell itself. It is Evening Star has a requirement of 2 level 6 or higher Dark Fray monsters. Now, this would be a lot easier, trust me, if it said 2 Darklord monsters. If it said 2 Darklord monsters, you're chilling. Like, you're so incredibly chilling, you have never chilled like this before in your life. But it doesn't, because let's say Jehudi, like, it's so bad. Like, there's a lot of ways where the deck just chokes itself out. So the pure version of the deck just isn't highly functionable. And even if we add the Dark Fairy Searcher, it runs into the same problem that that Thrust has, where you don't achieve anything with another Searcher. And this is like my problem lately with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is where the way they really support is they give a deck 4 cards, and all of a sudden those 4 cards are really good. But then you have like this huge disparity between what you already have and the new cards, to the point where it doesn't feel like it's enough to make it into a good deck. Let's talk about like Sacred Beasts. When they want to make a good deck, they will release 11 cards. When they don't want to make a good deck, they will give you 4 cards. and I'm gonna ask you like questions later, obviously, when you do your Exorcister stream, because Exorcister had a similar amount of support, with like a couple of additional ones, like the Spirit Monster, Main Deck Monster, etc. That really helped the deck, but the deck had a really strong foundation already. Where this deck was, if your deck was in 2023, this deck was in 2017. You know, like almost light years behind. Where so you're forced into like playing ugly, where you need to side. You need to side like Christia to play the game. Like, so something gets negated or whatever. Your line is. This is why I'm saying that Lahamu is gonna help this deck. You just get to normal summon the Asmodeus and send the Christia, and you're already like winning the game at this point. Because the thing about the first Darklord is you cannot target it. So if you're going first, you don't care if your opponent has like the Veiler or the Imperm or whatever. Like, if they're like waiting for something like this. Once you get Christia into the graveyard, no matter how, like you can even run Foolish Burial if you're like that desperate to get one. So, you know, it's crazy. But exactly, you're like right. The card quality, the disparity there is just it's too much, because the deck wasn't cohesive to begin with. Like, there's a reason nobody played pure Darklord before Burst Protocol, unlike, you know, people playing pure Exorcister and it being a viable rogue deck depending on like different metas and stuff. So like releasing support, in my opinion, this deck needed like 8 cards. Like, if they got like 4 more cards on the same type of quality as this, it would have been it would have been like up to standard. But because it's not, then yeah, I agree with Rusty. Like the idea of tiers gets a bit blurry, so that's why I had to ask. Like, in my opinion, you could perform. You could top a regional, you could top an open with Solfachord or Melodious. There's one more thing I want to mention. I specifically didn't want to talk about it, but I'm gonna mention it. Where is it? Um, this is yeah. Is this the new one? Yeah. So the we had a community tournament in the Darklord Discord server where I did not participate, but a lot of people I connected with and speak to on a regular basis did. And the deck that won the the community tournament is Darklord Mitsurugi. There isn't really anything to say here. The 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 line is there is no line. The line is you're using a meta engine to help you play the video game, and honestly, that's completely fine. Like this is if you want to play this, yeah, just add Mitsu. Like the it was obvious. Like you could the same principle. You could add Millennium, you could add Horus, stuff like even Adventure. Like at this point, who cares, right? But whatever is meta at the time, this can be like extremely viable because this engine by itself is gonna force your opponent to interact with you, and then you have your Dark Lord stuff is just so free, like incredibly free. And this also helps with the release of Lahamu as well. It's a generic one, so like you could just all the bodies you spam can be used for a Link monster as well. That helps you play the video game, or gets you to your Dark Lords. So it's a thing. I don't like it, just because I think it's the least interesting thing. Like you're so heavily relying on this, in my opinion. You're even though you're playing different engines in the deck, they just work together. They blend together really well. They go into each other. There's a lot of good fairy stuff that piles that don't play fairy engines can't use, such as Herald of Orange Light and Green Light and stuff like that. So I don't like it, but it did win the tournament, so I had to mention it. Exactly. This is this is what real men do. They play pure and they cope, but you can see the discrepancy and the difference with Dark Lord. There's so many of these cards, but the what I've mentioned is the original deck started in a GX manga. The cards didn't really have any purpose or cohesion. You can special summon a fairy type from the graveyard. Uh, tribute summon, target a monster your opponent controls, lose 1,000. Like, it's an old archetype that got new cards that are just not good enough. Like, and I'm talking about like 2020 support, like the most recent one before Burst Protocol. They sort of tried to make the deck function as a 2-card combo deck, which is already a step in like the, the wrong direction with their card design. Because if you want to make a 2-card combo deck, you got to make all the cards have really good value, like Draco Tail or this or that. In Dark Lord, you just don't have that. Like, for example, perfect example of this is Dark Lord Amdusk, which you can discard this card and a Dark Lord card, and then target a Dark Lord card in your graveyard, and then add it to your hand. And then also, you know, it can copy a spell and trap in the graveyard. So, the good card, but it has to discard another Darklord. It can't just discard something else, and you are losing a lot of resources because when you think about it, like, there's not that many graveyard effects other than Gobblewet in this deck. So, you sending stuff to the graveyard isn't exactly giving you any specific value. So, you know, it's a shame, but yeah. All right. Well, anybody want to play a game or two before we wrap this up, just to sort of see the deck in action, and you guys can let me know if you want to see like Solfachord or Melodious, whichever one you sort of fancy more. I'm not playing against Rossi, by the way. I am too sick for this, bro. I already have the illness. You don't gotta give it to me again. I mean, yeah, it was. It's not lying. Like, there's games where I want to, for some reason, the replays just were not saved. Played like a ton of games together. All right, well, let's play game Frost, and then we'll wrap this stream up. You can make the lobby or whatever. Oh, okay, sure, yeah, no worries. Hopefully I don't showcase how good the deck bricks, because it happens. Alright. Oh, oops, wrong deck. Wrong deck. Just send it again. Yeah, this is the one. Alright, we have combo, even though it's the bare minimum, but you know, we still have it. Beat this up a little bit for myself. So, same line as before, just the Trickstar line, it's kind of the only line that we have, really. Gonna activate the effect. Nightshade. Now, here, there's a couple of choices on the discard for sure. Hmm. I think we're gonna just go for the normal play. Because we can pop the DJ if he, you know, has an interaction for it. Oh yeah, and one of the more unfortunate parts about the deck, if you didn't like notice, for like literally every single combo is it's quite linear. Unfortunately, it's quite linear. Like you're not gonna have a lot of variety in your combos. You're gonna be mostly repeating the same thing, and there we go. That's crazy. That's the choke. All right. Well, okay. Funny. You know what? Mm-mm. Mhm. Yeah, I don't think we have a way to play. This is exactly what I was talking about. They stop you from getting to the dance. Your deck is cooked. Hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, we end our turn. It's a shame. It's not a quick effect, right? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same line, but just you have different ways to get to the same line. The engines are what add the variety. The way you actually sort of sequence your plays is 9 times out of 10 the same thing, which is unfortunate, but you know, 4 good cards will, you know, give you that, so. Um, I think in pure, yes, very likely, but in uh, in variations, like with different engines, with Melodious and with Solfachord, you don't really need that. Oh my god, I have no idea what these cards do. Well, I know what this card does. Send one orchestra. I don't think you would play two, just because the card by itself doesn't do anything. It's a nice extender, but my my main logic when I look at this is the value of the card that you're adding. If you're adding it to supplement your 2 card, 3 card, 4 card, whatever it may be combos, it's not good enough. You're betting on the chance you're having the dance here. If you look at this like exact same scenario, you're just sort of coping like, oh, if I've drawn dance, then I could have played here. But in reality, if you like drew dance by itself with no combo, you're bricked. So it's just not easy, right? Like the for me, it's hard to justify that. The same thing with like adding free eggshell. You know, you're 9 times out of 10 adding more value to your multiple card combos, which by themselves don't get you anywhere most of the time. So. I guess it's gonna be Master Roll pretty soon, so I should sort of figure out what real real boys do, or whatever it's called. Yeah, no worries. I mean, I've just happened to, get a chance to talk about the deck in any capacity. I think it's very cool. If you love the art, and if you're interested in learning it, which, is one of the main reasons, like, if you think about it, it's so cool, like, Fallen Angel and stuff. Um, it's worth it, but you just gotta sort of know what you're getting yourself into. You're not buying into the next meta thing, you're just enjoying enjoying a pretty okay-ish rogue deck, in my opinion, that can, perform pretty admirably. And also the whole two dance thing is Concerto is essentially almost another copy of Dance in Melodious, so like in that deck it's almost as if you're running two Dance, so if you do like the idea of two copies, I think Melodious is worth checking out. I love how like all these are just the art for these cards. So goofy, actually. For some reason, they like give off like an older school vibe for somehow. Yes, 9 times out of 10 Morningstar or with Happiness. I've showed you the replay with Happiness and the 4 pops, but also the game on Master Duel Pro versus Rossi. I've shown how you sort of want to get to Morningstar and then the first Darklord to pop. Slow down movie scene, yes. Wow, this is turning into a shepherd's cook. Nah, I mean, you know what? That's so real. Let's wait. Continue, not rematch.
Yeah, I'll make this the last duel because it's about to hit 2, and I also have Easter
Yeah.
Dinner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not. I wasn't gonna play more. Trust me. Okay. Cool. Not cool. Not cool. Not cool at all, actually. Wow. Suddenly very uncool.
I assume.
Okay, bro. Like
I assume you
he
play
didn't have
terribly
to...
into Charmies.
Oh, absolutely. It's terribly is an understatement. Like every single rogue deck, you just insta give yourself into them. Unfortunately, not just one, but like the second one also like. Yeah, like there's like a, if you had potentially like a multiple card multiple Darklord card hand, there was a way for you to just instantly fusion into the Evening Star. Like, it would have been slightly better, but it's still not good. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, that's cool. You know what? At least we get to play for an Ash Blossom. So yeah, when I was talking about thrust, okay. When I was talking about thrust specifically, in this case, like, it would be pretty good to have it. But this is like almost the only case where thrust is, yeah, like, you would actively consider it. Well, I can't search anything, which is a shame. Because, you know, we had to get hit by Droll, but... So, yeah, one thing I'm also gonna mention here, the lack of a second copier name hurts. What I mean by this is you had no way to sort of get the eggshell here because you lack the second search because of Droll. So it makes it more difficult. So now we don't really have that many options. The only thing we can do is we can use this to just target at, you know, any of the two and just add them to hand. So I guess what we can do is we're just gonna ensure follow-up by adding the Goggle Get to the hand, and then we're just gonna use the discard on the opponent's turn to, you know, get a search for like the next turn. But yeah, that's there's not much to do. Get the life points, which would have been cool before the new ruling, where, you know, you just both insta lose, and, you know, it doesn't matter who has more life points in the final game. Oh, hello. I mean, okay. I mean, okay, we're still sort of cooking and playing. Let's see. Okay, we're not cooking. Yeah. this. Okay, okay. Oh, that's funny. I mean, some people are just born different. You feel me? Like, I wasn't born like this. I wasn't born like this. So this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, actual real. This is what you're like. When you go to locals or whatever, when you play, you're not gonna get the Fantasyland ending. You're just gonna get sacked exactly like this. So, you know, we're showing real shit here. We're showing actual real shit here. Yeah, yeah. Sack me, little bro. I mean, you know, he's cooking, bro. He's let him cook. Let him cook. And the worst part, I don't even know where to like interrupt this deck. No idea. I mean, for me, this is just the normal Yu-Gi-Oh experience. Like, I get sacked on the daily, so surprisingly, like less locals, I did not get sacked, but you know, it's a rare experience. I mean, Droll would have just cooked here, I can't lie, but you know, he's just him, so. But Droll would have cooked, I'm pretty sure. Wow. Frost, bro. Seriously, engage.
Nah, I
Yo!
think it's nah, just scoop, bro. Just scoop. Just scoop.
Close the mod, bro. Close the stream. Oh my god. Yeah, so there you go. This is why I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh, by the way.
Yeah. All right.
Alright. So maybe it's tier 4 actually, not gonna lie. Let's see what is Frost deck tier? You know, if it's not tier 3, then I don't know, questionable. But yeah, I guess that would be that for me really. Like, sorry for like I want to just like apologize for like the poor quality, honestly, because I just woke up before the stream because I knew I had to do it. So my readiness for this was subpar, let's say. But you know, hopefully I've managed to explain the deck well and the good and the bad things and sort of what future support would fix. You know, obviously the main talking points would be the additional names. I think this is what the deck is lacking the most, is like quality names on the scale of what we got with DJ and God will get. So hopefully it happens like, you know, in a couple of years and whatnot. So we'll just have to see whenever it is I have to do that. But yeah, I mean, thanks guys. I'm honestly surprised there's this many people here. You know, it's been great having you with me here.
Thank you, sir. I gotta
No,
go.
thank you.